December 10th, 2018. Agenda amendments. Anything to add, talk about, discuss? Amendments? Minutes, November 13th, 2018, regular meeting.
I move we approve.
I second it.
Any further discussion, council? Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Payroll vouchers number 18-11, November wages and salaries.
I move we approve payroll voucher number 18-11 for November wages and salaries.
Second.
Any more discussion, council? On wages and salaries. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Accounts payable, November checks pre-written.
I move to approve November checks pre-written and accounts payable.
I have a second.
Second.
Move second. Any more discussion, council? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I abstain.
Noted. Void outstanding checks.
I move we approve voiding check number 18-133 and 18-236.
I second it.
Any further discussion, council, on the voided checks? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Delinquent accounts. Approved write-offs for bookkeeping purposes.
Didn't the first one live in a rental house?
They told us they owned it.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
before we started a new policy of renting more.
Okay.
Documentation. The second one is not on that list of write-offs because the deposit's been covered. Everyone else is on the list.
I move we approve the delinquent utility account write-offs. Second.
Any further discussion, council? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sunday CMB sales, Kerry, CBA, Lincoln Grocery.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me come before the council. I'm here to request to have the city allow CMB sales on Sunday for my business and for anybody else who has a CMB license.
I have a question on the why is it just not on Easter?
That's the law.
That's the law.
That
Okay.
is the law.
So if Chris, if,
No, Easter is statutorily accepted from
okay.
having it be permissible.
So if Christmas falls on a Sunday, that's,
Christmas isn't mentioned,
okay.
just that any Sunday except Easter is the way that's the legislative provision.
Okay.
It has to be repeated in the ordinance.
Did you hear that, Kerry?
What exactly is that? Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday is, you're not permitted to sell cereal malt on Easter Sunday by statute. I would add the ordinance, basically the league ordinance with a few exceptions relative to the statutory citations. I don't think those were exactly right, so I put them in there the way I think they should be. And then they're the same, except one of the statutes was omitted on the league ordinance, and I think it should be in there, so it's in there for what it's worth.
Sunday. And don't tell Kerry what it says. Sunday sales are allowed on Sundays except for Easter and between the hours of noon and 8 p.m. And then holidays, there's holidays that land on Monday, you are allowed to sell then to from 12 to 8. From noon to 8.
What about the holidays beyond these specifically?
Holidays statutorily permitted are Memorial Day, Christmas Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, or Christmas, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Thanksgiving and Christmas are not in the ordinance. Do they need to be?
No. No, they don't, because you can sell on those days.
Okay. So is this saying it cannot happen on Memorial Day, Independence Day?
No.
Okay.
No, it says it can happen on those holidays.
I just wonder why they're itemizing those but not the other two. I guess that's my question.
The other two being,
Thanksgiving and Christmas.
well, Christmas is mentioned, and Thanksgiving Day is mentioned.
Where?
Well, it's in the statute. If it didn't get in the ordinance, I don't know. It references KSA 47. The only exception is the one that is in the proposed ordinance, which is Easter Sunday, which is there can be no sales. And that's legislatively enacted.
I guess my question is, do we need to, in section 2, where since we have specifically detailed Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day, do we need to get Thanksgiving and Christmas added as well?
Well, it's not presented that way in the statute, but let me look at that.
Thanksgiving's always on Thursday.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about Thanksgiving.
I thought the current law was you couldn't sell on any holiday,
It is.
but they opened it up
They
for
opened it
those.
up.
But and we have specifically named 3 out of the 5. So I think we need to name all 5 of them to make it clear. That's my opinion.
Well, I think that's a judgment call by the council. It says, the statute says, or.
changed, can it? That's not a big deal, is it?
Well, it can be changed, I just don't know.
Or do we just leave them all, just, except Easter?
Yeah, Easter is
Do we need
protected.
to leave,
May I make a comment? Because I'm a little confused about holiday sales, because alcohol sales are allowed on the holidays
Yes,
right now.
yes.
This is only about Sunday sales, is what I'm requesting, because I believe under the law that I can sell on Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
I believe you can too.
It's only Sunday that we're excluded from sales.
That's what the specific intent of the ordinance is, to bring Sunday on board except Easter Sunday.
Yeah. So I don't know, I don't have your copy of it, but the holidays
Well, we
aren't
should
part
have
one.
one that you could look
There's
at.
one over there.
Like I said, this came directly from the
From the state.
league of municipalities, except for a couple of additional statutes that I put in there.
Now, would this Sunday sales have any effect on Three Amigos? Would
No,
they,
they have a liquor license.
They
have a liquor
regular
license, so they can sell on Sunday now?
They can, because of the nature of the license that they have. They have a liquor license.
They're occupational.
So this would just affect the grocery store and Viv's? Unless somebody else.
This is occupational, she's not seeing me.
But it's package
Yeah.
only. You'll notice section 2 makes reference to 41.7.12, which refers to alcoholic liquor in the original package is allowed within the city on any Sunday except Easter between the hours and on Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. That's the league's suggested language, so that's what's in there.
I don't believe liquor stores can be open on those. Just
Well, I
seeing-
think that's why those were
Right.
specifically
The
included.
liquor store cannot be open on those holidays, but you can sell as a CMB. I believe that's why the league had the ordinance the way it was, so that it would blanket
Right.
into.
But even with the liquor store, they can't be open on Christmas or Thanksgiving either, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
That was my understanding, but I was just curious why it itemized out 3 of them, but not all 5. That was my question.
I entertain a motion to pass the cereal malt beverage sales for Sunday.
I'll move we pass ordinance number 722.
Second.
Any more discussion, council, on the ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did you see in there, Kerry, that it doesn't take effect until 61 days after second publication? I'm going to get it to the paper, so the first publication will be the 20th, the second one will be the 27th, and you gotta count 61 days from now.
Rose, Heather just pointed that out. That's different. That's like a charter ordinance, except this is not a charter ordinance. It requires the 2 publication. It isn't just like, a charter ordinance, of course, require. And there's a permissive petition period, that's 61 days, to against the ordinance, which would then require the vote of the people. That's what it would lead to, if you wanted to go forward with it. after the 61 days, it's city law, if it isn't protested.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kerry. Moving on, this historic survey update. Kelly Larson.
Yeah, actually, on these next two things, I just felt it's been a long time since I've been before you guys. I think I don't actually remember when kind of we had talked about this, so I thought I better make sure to just come and give you a little bit of an update. On the historic survey update, sometime a while ago, I was here talking about what this historic survey is. The Economic Development Foundation, we received a grant from the Kansas Historical Society to hire a consultant to survey downtown Lincoln, downtown Sylvan, Lincoln City Park, to kind of analyze if we have a historic district here, if we're eligible to have a historic district here, and then also write a National Register nomination for the old high school here. And the purpose for the survey is, with any grant, if you're going to apply for something, you kind of have to have a plan, you have to have done a study, something like that. If for Sylvan, in order for them to be eligible for CDBG housing grant money, before they could ever think about applying, they had to do a housing assessment. Well, this is kind of the same thing. If we ever want to qualify for any historic grants, tax credits, stuff like that, you got to do the assessment. So this is simply kind of doing the study that's would be required. The consultant that's been hired, she's been on the job for a couple months now. Her name is Brenda Spencer. Her business is Spencer Preservation out of Wamego. She's been in this business for a very long time, has worked on probably hundreds of historic district surveys and nominations, and then also specifically with projects like the old high school or something like that, where if there's going to be a new development of some kind and historic tax credits come into place, she a lot of times works with the developer or whoever to make sure that the project is done in a way that maximizes and gets the tax credits. So she's very knowledgeable. In mid-October was her first site visit here and to Sylvan. She did a public meeting at that time to kind of just talk about, again, what is the survey, what is it that she's doing. She was here also last week to do a second visit where she basically spent most of her time in research mode at the museum here in town and over in Sylvan. She's already done research kind of through her own means, through the state library and so forth, just kind of gathering up information. Her first big deadline is in February, and really she just kind of has to have a database in place where all the properties have been outlined and she's got descriptions, and she starts filling in the important dates and history of those buildings. And at that time, a lot of this information is going to be on the state's. They have a database on the Kansas Historical Society's website where you can go and see a lot of the buildings across the state that's been surveyed. There's already stuff in Lincoln County that's in this database, so this would just be adding more to it. And then at that time, when she kind of starts to evaluate the dates, she can kind of start pulling together the history and start making a determination whether she thinks that we've got a potential for a historic district or not. This survey, all it is a glorified research paper. It does not do anything that says we are a historic district, so it doesn't put anything in place in terms of official designations. This is just basically a glorified research paper. But my hope is that to continue to kind of talk with property owners about what this is, and at some time, probably this summer of 2019, we can maybe have a conversation about, do we want to move forward as a community, as a downtown property owners, with a historic designation to actually get the downtown listed. And at that time, each property within that district, if we decide to move forward with it, each property within that district would be considered a contributing building, so therefore it's considered contributing to the historic nature of the downtown, or non-contributing. What that means is basically You can do whatever you want to your building. There's nothing, no property rights are taken away. You can still, there's no restrictions that are put on a property. You can do whatever you want to do. If it's considered a contributing, you could still knock it down the next day if you wanted to, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But if you want to do something with the building and you want to tie into any grants or tax credits, you've got the designation now to be eligible to apply for those things. So really, in my mind, all it really does is open up an opportunity. Property owners can choose whether they want to take advantage of that opportunity or not. It's still totally up to their choice. We're just kind of providing the chance, I guess. But again, that's kind of one step down the road here. This is, again, just a survey. We've got to do this step in order to really kind of figure out whether we want to do the next step around, whether we're eligible to go to the next step or not, and then do we want to do that or not. So I think come May is when the survey is going to be completed. So we've got a few months here. She is going to do a final public presentation of her findings at that time, so I'll let you know about that. But I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up in case you'd heard anybody say, like, why was some lady going around taking pictures of my building a couple months ago or something like that. So she's been digging up some good info. The city park seems like she's having a little bit of a harder time finding some information on that, but she went through some newspapers here last week and was actually able to kind of find some key dates to kind of help her narrow her search down. So she is getting somewhere. So anyway, I'm hoping to kind of, I've been kind of just waiting, see how things are going with her, but as we start to narrow down with the survey and get a little bit more information, to start providing some more information to all of you and to the property owners in the downtown as well, just to kind of say, here's where we are in the process and let people know what's going on, and hopefully there'll be some interesting kind of little factoids that come out of it that can perk people's interest up. So that's what's going on in terms of the survey, and with the National Register nomination for the old high school, that is that next step where the goal is in May to have it go before the Kansas Historic Review Board, and assuming they approve it, that'll immediately be listed on the Kansas Historic Places, but then it will go to the National Register and get approved there. That usually takes, I think, 45 or 60 days, something like that, for it to be approved there. But then at that point, now we can apply for some grants or tax credits to start working on that project, which is still a project. So it'll still be a big job. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to let each of you know what was going on there. If you have any questions or if you've heard anything from anybody, I will gladly answer any questions or if there's any concerns out there. I think it's been pretty quiet, so I haven't heard anything. But if you guys do, I'd gladly answer them or point people to me anyway. No questions on that one? All right, then.
Strategic Doing, Active Living Master Plan Update.
All right, so this
Welcome,
is...
Kelly Larson.
yeah.
Straightening out the plan outside the office here today.
Yeah.
Don't forget to put that
That was
on.
long hair.
Lawn care.
Yes, that's right. So this is another thing. Over a year ago, the Jane Hansen Foundation challenged all the community foundations in Northwest Kansas to do the strategic doing process. So I don't know if that's starting to ring a bell with anybody, but at the time, big group of people trying to think of some big ideas, and one of the groups that kind of started to rally around was this idea of more outside active living types of projects. And we weren't really sure. We still don't really know what the best title for it is, but we've kind of settled, I think, on this active living master plan. But the idea is that through this big group, they wanted to see trails, they wanted to see splash pads, they wanted to see pool improvements, they wanted to see park improvements, they wanted to see lots of different things. But as we settled in and kind of started to narrow down our focus, it really came to the point that we still don't even know what our next step is, because, yeah, we want a trail, but, you know, now what? You know, there's a certain amount of engineering and kind of very preliminary design. You know, how much money are we even talking here? You know, just some fundamental details that we got to kind of figure out before we can even figure out how to apply for a grant or do something like that. So the idea with this master plan was to focus on our top priority projects and hire an engineering firm to kind of help us with just some basic preliminary design work. It's kind of like, you know, if you guys, when a CDBG grant pops up, you need to hire Schwab Eaton to kind of do just the preliminary design work just so you can apply for a grant. And then once you get the grant, then they do more engineering work to kind of pull the plan together. So we're just at that preliminary phase here. We got a grant from the Post Rock Community Foundation and the Dane Hansen Foundation, totaling $23,000 to hire Schwab Eaton to kind of do this very preliminary work with us. We've met with them as a group, and we're getting to the point now where we need to kind of, they're going to have a very draft, but I want to make sure that we include the city and the different kind of stakeholders, I guess you could say, with each one of these projects. So I kind of just want to get it on your radar that this is coming, that we want to sit down with Jesse and Heather, definitely, for sure. We're going to organize a meeting where, I'm not really sure how to do it, because we've kind of got Sylvan folks, we've got Lincoln folks, we've got Barnard folks. How do we do this that best utilizes Schwab Eaton's time without having to make 10 different trips down here? But anyway, this is all kind of starting to come up. For the preliminary projects that we're kind of working with, for Barnard, it's a trail along their levee. And some of this is tying into the intern that I had 2 summers ago now, when we were kind of talking about park improvements. So it's taking that very conceptual plan to kind of the next level, which is still pretty preliminary stuff. Here in Lincoln, the projects that we're talking about is kind of 2 components. One are sidewalk improvements. Kind of the safe routes to school type of thing. How do we get from the elementary school to the downtown to the park to the high school? And then also some sidewalk improvements that actually, where you can walk kind of a loop around town, not necessarily all the way around, but maybe along kind of a few of the major streets, so where you're not walking in the street, so to speak. We just have one good kind of solid sidewalk that we can do a big square in. Part of that, though, is in the downtown, potentially having some bump outs, which I'll be really curious what you guys think about that. And let's see. I think that's kind of the major part from a sidewalk perspective. Another component is trail improvements, which we're calling the loop around City Park. Is how do we do that? What kind of material are we talking about? How do we manage the creek? The flooding kind of gets into this as well, and some of those perpetually wet spots within the park. So that kind of plays into all of this. Another thing with the city park is bathrooms. I think a couple years ago, you guys had applied for a CDBG grant for bathrooms. We're kind of like, okay, let's maybe come up with a plan with all of these different things, ideas. What's the most appropriate place for the bathroom, and how do we get that in place? And again, with the flooding, kind of that bridge, low water crossing it's not really so much a bridge as a low water crossing, but how do we maybe improve that area for walking across it, drainage, and everything there. So that's kind of the big stuff in town. Another project that doesn't necessarily have to impact you guys, but I might want to talk to you about it, is at the Saline River Dam, putting in what we're calling McReynolds Mill Park. Steve McReynolds owns the property around the dam, but he's very open to donating it to some entity, and for the purpose of creating a park there. It's a beautiful little spot. If we can kind of clean it up, we could actually make it a true park where, instead of kind of taking your kids down there to fish, there's actually like a place to fish, and maybe a place for a picnic table and stuff like that. We're designing it to be a rustic park, so nothing that we're going to need to extend sewer lines to or anything like that, just a rustic park. So those are the major things here in Lincoln. In Sylvan, we're talking about much of the same thing. Some trails and sidewalk improvements, the Safe Routes to School project. We're also kind of throwing in splash pads into this because there's people from both communities that want splash pads. The idea with the splash pad, I think, component to this, though, is Schwab Eaton's going to kind of, design or give some information on a sort of a generic one. Like, here's what just a splash pad would cost, not necessarily identify a place for it, but once whatever group wants to take this project on, they identify the place, and then obviously there's going to be more costs that would have to come into it. So that's just kind of a quick outline. With this master plan, the idea is that we've kind of got a booklet, for lack of a better word, where each of these projects has some real information to it. There's still a lot that has to be designed and figured out, but at least we've got some pretty good numbers to start from. And again, when a grant opportunity comes along, we're now actually ready to apply, which it seems like is always the problem in the past. A special CDBG round comes along and we're not ready because we don't have anything. A Safe Routes to School grant opens up and we're not ready because we don't have anything. So the idea is that we've got some projects that are ready, and we're going to put this master plan out there, so if there's a group of people who kind of want to take that trail project and run with it, they are more able, to run with it than to do what most of us have been doing for the last couple of years. It's just like, that's a great idea. Let's come back next week and say the same thing. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of put that on your radar, let you know where we are with it, let you know that I am going to be reaching out to you, especially Jesse and Heather, to kind of talk about these things, because we know that there's a lot that has to go into it, and a lot of considerations. So we're just kind of getting enough of a draft together that we can put something on a table and talk about. So I think we're not going to be able to have a meeting obviously before Christmas, but sometime in January is when we'll probably have a meeting. I'm hoping any day now. They say I'm going to have this draft, so I might be able to at least get you something to kind of be mulling over until we actually have time to sit down. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff there, so I just kind of wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of all this stuff kind of going on in the background. If you have any questions or concerns or things that you want us to be mindful of, please let me know.
Thank you, Kelly.
Alrighty, thank you.
Moving on, personnel, city service awards. We have 3 awards tonight, 10, a 20, and a 35. First would be Mr. Crispin, Jack Crispin.
Wait.
Yeah, and it's 10 years.
I'm old and infirm, so you have to give me a minute here. You want to check in? Okay.
Was that good the second time?
That was great.
We got another one, so don't sit
No
down.
idea.
Next is Mike Feldkamp, 20 years of service. You're getting along a little better, aren't you?
A whole lot better.
Sorry.
How better I was in November.
I get him all like kids don't like having picture taken.
And third but not least, Galen Liggett, 35 years. You want me to bring that to you? 35 years? You ready?
You ready?
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, I didn't think he was that old either.
I started when I was 10.
I know what you were doing when you were 10.
Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
2019 wage and salary adjustments. Well, I would ask the council to consider a cost of living as far as adjustment. And I would like to think of what we did last year. And what was that amount, do you know? Because we've been doing cents instead of percentages.
Have we increased our starting wage along with these in the past also?
Yes, you did last year.
Okay.
Starting is 12 now.
All the crew members still happy with that arrangement of it being a flat raise instead of percentage?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's kind of somebody loses either way. Because the higher earners don't get nearly as big a percentage bump when it's flat rate, but they also don't get the.
Well, what I always ask the council to consider is that a loaf of bread don't cost me any more
Sure.
than anybody else. So I don't know why I should be getting more money cost of living. It's the same program.
I totally agree with that.
Yep. Now, on years of service, does that just automatically adjust? What happened? Okay. Is
Do
there?
we get any increase for years of service?
Well, I guess that was my question.
No. You get an award and chamber bucks.
The city has allowed merit raises.
Are you
There's four.
asking for any of those?
There's 4 employees I'd like to ask.
Okay. Well, I suppose in that case, we should probably be in executive session to discuss merit increases. Is that accurate?
Personnel, exception to the open meeting rule.
Okay.
Discuss non-elected personnel.
Does the clerk have any merit increase suggestions?
Right.
Well, I would move that we enter into executive session then for the purpose of discussion of wages and salaries of non-elected personnel.
Hello.
For,
I need a second.
I
Hang
second
on,
it.
he's still moving.
I would say until 8:20
With Jess and Heather.
with Jess and Heather and the city attorney.
I'll second that one.
Any further discussion, council? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I'm slow and confirmed. Nah, it'll be fine. It's got a lid on it. And he said until 8:20, which means everybody has to turn around and look at the clock 10 minutes. Well, Elijah always has to be a little bit difficult.
Keith and Kerry telling the churches have 60 days to stop.
Are you going to cause a fuss? Do we have any problems there?
You are? You're going to quit coming?
I see too much in there.
What's that? You're going to stop coming? Is that what? Oh.
Them guys, they talk about it. Well, for instance, whatever, and they got to read the whole page. That's supposed to be sent to them Friday night. If they can't read that by Saturday and Sunday and Monday, they have no business on the city council.
Are you talking the...
Everybody.
Or anything that they...
Their packets.
Everything
They
in
get
their
all this.
packet. They got to read it.
Yeah, gotcha.
God, guys, you're representing us taxpayers.
And they keep me up past my bedtime every month.
Up for Kerry during his, hang on.
They,
You guys know already. Why are you just sitting here? No one saying anything.
yeah, but they haggled over Saturday. The others is already state
Labor Day's
controlled.
Labor Day's always on a Monday.
No, it's like...
Thanksgiving's always on Thursday.
Memorial Day's always on.
Monday. So what's the big deal?
Well, the question is just why was it in the ordinance at all?
Yeah.
It's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Like no one had it
Take
in.
the whole thing out.
And then they just talked about it for...
Yeah.
Too long. Too
I
long.
don't know why
They
no one
should've
would move, though.
That should have took them 3 minutes.
I would agree. They should have already, they knew it was coming.
They got
They knew what their
They talked to
intent
them.
was.
I know. It is.
Whether it was yay or nay, they should have already known.
Yeah.
Something like that. No new information was really brought.
No, he said the exact same words last month. Kerry did. Exact same, yeah. It's okay.
It's Lincoln.
I just shake
It's
my
operated
head.
like that for years. And now it's bled up into the courthouse.
Oh, no, yeah. We don't need to talk about that.
He, correct.
That's... Seems like it's kind of hard to have a conversation anymore. Nobody wants to be prepared.
When you put your name on the dotted line that you're running for a position, you better get prepared.
Oh,
Because that's what you do.
I don't disagree with you. I
Gee,
don't disagree at
Christmas. They act like first graders in there. I'll bet you You
I
could
you
get,
haven't seen first graders for a while. I'll give more credit to that. I've been around some first graders.
get a half a dozen sixth graders.
Okay, I'll give maybe sixth graders. That's different.
Now wait a minute. And give them an agenda, and then give them what they're going to talk about.
Tell them there's recess after.
And I'll bet you could get a quicker response.
Maybe.
I think you have a higher
What do you want me to do?
opinion of
Go to
our
second grade?
Your opinion of our education system is a little higher than mine.
Well, our education system is getting down to mom and dad.
Oh, I think it's
Well, I think
the
it.
opposite. I think mom and dad are somehow being allowed to be removed from an education system.
Well, because
They are.
for I think a generation, mom and dad quit doing their job.
That's right. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's
Took it wrong
what I
way.
meant.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
when I went to
parents
school-
don't have to.
Mom would say right after supper, "We got dishes to do, then you got homework." And I didn't argue.
That's right. Well, same way.
I agree.
And it shouldn't. We teach our kids. It shouldn't be any different.
It wasn't
I don't
any
care
different
if
at my
they
house. That
went
was
to,
me.
mom and dad went to that Vietnam area. I don't care if they went to World War II. I don't care if they went through anything. That's the way it should work. Us taxpayers shouldn't have to put 23 pairs up there just because mom and dad don't do the work.
When my kids were little, there's a 9-year span between the oldest and the youngest. When I know she was 5, so that made them, 14 and 13, and they were having a hard time getting their assignments done. And I made them sit down after dinner for an hour every night, whether they had homework or not. And my 5-year-old was like, "What do you want me to do?" She was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, do you have homework?" And she said, "Nope." I said, "Okay, pick an encyclopedia."
Just sit there for an hour.
And she ended up, being this like straight A student. I don't care. Just let me read something. I'll be fine.
The best thing a parent can do, instead of getting a damn video game, is buy them a book and read it. Either read it to them or get one that they can read. When they get that and finished, put it in their library and give them another book, whether it's a $10 one or a 10-cent one.
The data actually agrees that the more screen time you get, the less happy parents or children are. And if you have 100 books or more in your home, it doesn't even matter if you read them. If you just have 100 books in your home or more, then you've already increased the wage earning potential of your children, period.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just the presence, because they get the idea that that's what these are and what you do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they look at them or not, whether you read them or not, just having them is what the data shows. And the screen time is ridiculous what that does to kids and parents. Parents are no different. And that's what you're getting at. The parents aren't parenting. But
No.
the school was willing to take over some of that, and now they're finding they can't, and the parents aren't willing to take it back.
Right. Really sad. And it changes a little bit from community to community, and I don't know what the big difference is, but my daughter last year was teaching 2nd grade in Wichita, and the No Child Left Behind, you mainstream all special needs, which is not a problem usually, but she's just a little girl. She's 35, but she's small in stature, and she had 11 special needs children out of a class of 23. It was not good. And now she's in a different district, and she's got nothing. She loves it.
like to request that the council will consider a 50-cent merit raise for Rob Tom Shirley, Dylan Rowan, and Darren Tom.
I move we approve Justin's recommendations for a 50-cent raise to those four mayors.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion, council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Jess. What was the fourth name, the last name you read?
Darren Johnson.
Oh, okay.
I'll move the remain for the general cost of living increase of 50 cents per hour for all city employees.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is this in the director? Is that in our scope now?
It is. I mean, that's
But
the way
they
our
were
ordinance
supposed
is.
to
Well,
do
but-
a review and provide a recommendation.
That hasn't happened.
Yes, but ultimately, we set the wage.
Okay.
So if we're gonna do a cost of living for all
That's
city
all I'm
employees,
asking. Okay.
and then if they want to make a merit suggestion, that's their own prerogative.
Okay.
We're not gonna solicit that. They can bring it. That's my view.
Okay. I just want to verify.
Okay, so I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the raises?
I abstain.
Who's second? I'm sorry.
I'd like to thank council for the crew because I guarantee they'll be happy with that.
Thank you. Moving on, I dropped the ball on this. Either Jess wasn't around or I wasn't around on this Kerry Jensen Memorial Day to get some better ideas of how we're going to get the water to drain out away from the park. So I would like to table it till next month. I'll try and get it further, a little more details, and I'm waiting on some numbers back for the sign and that kind of stuff. So.
Table until January.
Yeah.
I'll put it on there.
City Hall Stonework sealed bids.
We
Is there
received
one that's open?
one by the deadline and then one by email this morning. I'm sorry.
Deadline was Friday or?
Friday at 5 p.m. I forgot to bring you a cutter. Can you, do you have a knife?
Nope.
You're not allowed to carry them.
Actually, the bid by email got to me by Friday.
Oh.
And I've neglected to move it on to you. That's my fault.
Okay, so what time do you need?
It was in the morning. I'd say by 10 a.m.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
So technically it was here.
Yes.
okay. I'm just gonna change the time on this. Sorry.
Well, that was already open, so I guess I'll do this one. First one's from Blue Stem Quarry and Stone. And it is a bid of $11,400.
Yeah, on that bid, the stone replacement is an optional. So the check point work that were requested on the bid is 10,000 something in that.
Yes, 10,200. Okay, I'm sorry there.
And then if we want to
Replace those.
some of the stones in the front,
It says 10 stones. 10 stones total replacement for an additional $1,200, which came to a total of $11,400 instead. So the bid was 10.2 if we don't want to replace those stones.
Is this the John Fan cost?
yes.
And then the second one is from Mid-Continental Restoration. Is there a bid in here?
I don't know. You open it.
Oh, bid proposal. There we go. Wow, that'd be quite a.
You bid like that.
amount of $15,108. Trying to see what is included and what isn't included. Careful inspection of all mortar joints shall be completed, and joints that are followed at all water pressure with air and not water. I'll pass this around. I don't know. That's quite a lengthy bid compared to the other one.
I might say that I've worked with both of these companies in our building, and both of them do excellent work, so.
What did we budget for this?
Approximately $34,000. Because that's what we had kind of guessed, or that was the last bid.
But was that for more than just the tuck pointing, that 34?
No.
Okay.
Where's Midcon, is that outside?
Fort Scott.
Fort Scott.
Wow. That's probably why it's a little more expensive. That's a haul.
They are a national organization. They had a crew up working on the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. So they are a national organization. John's very local, but both of them work very closely with the state, adhering to historic preservation requirements. Like I say, both of them have worked on my building, and I'm well pleased with both of them.
I think they're both pretty respectable bids, really. I mean,
They spend a lot to sell themselves.
yeah, that's quite a presentation, isn't it?
Sure. You got a color copier, it didn't cost them that much. It looks really nice.
It does look nice.
It's very
It's
professional.
on shiny paper, too.
This is all completed work, so it's history.
Is it for the same thing? I mean, are they replacing stones?
They did not, I don't think there's anything in that from Midcon about replacing stuff. At least I didn't see when I was going through it. Midcon did call me and ask me if we wanted the stone cleaned to take the blackness off of it, and I said not at this time. That's the only question I asked.
Did they sandblast or what would they do?
Well, they use a chemical cleaner like they used on my building.
Can Blue Stem do that as well,
The chemical cleaning.
to get the black off?
They could.
Because it is starting to get, I mean, if Heather, I mean, if she budgeted $34,000, and it's only going to cost us half of that.
We could probably do that on the lower section that we're going to do the repairs on, but if you're going to do the entire building, you're talking about a lot more than the remainder of that $30,000.
And add sealer.
Yeah.
So
No sealer.
you don't seal? I thought that was something that you want to do.
No. No, the standard now is you don't use sealant because moisture builds up behind it and pops the face of the rock on. So our building was cleaned but not sealed. And it's starting to, there are some areas where the black's coming back.
It'll
That's
come
a
back
negative.
every time.
Oh, yeah. But it has less stress on the stone to do it without the sealant.
Do you know if City Hall's ever been cleaned to get the black stuff off?
Not since I've been on council.
The only way I'd say anything is done maybe after the fire. That's the only thing I would say.
So we're
And
talking 85.
I can't remember.
And that probably was just in spots to get smoke damage
Right,
off. And
right.
not the whole building, yeah.
The fire was an 85.
Gives a character.
I mean,
It's historical.
It is. It's historical.
There you go.
Throw in a little loss.
Yeah.
Then
I
we'll
mean, it
start
looks
looking
good
like the
both
case
ways,
in
but
Kansas. See?
What's the difference between O and S mortar?
Hardness.
hardness.
And the O is better.
The O is actually softer and it matches the hardness of the stone better. If you use just like plain Portland cement, it's a lot harder than the stone, and they expand and contract at different rates, and cement
That's
tends to
what-
pop.
Too hard.
That was
All the
Bang's one of them, but it's all over town.
That's just the one I see grinding on all the time. When I go down the alley.
Yeah. We're gonna remove S.
Well, if Jack says that both of them did good work, why wouldn't we go with the cheaper one?
That's my thought.
And they're
It's
local.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of doing, if we've got somebody qualified to do local, like,
Yep.
I'd move we accept that's it. Proposal, and I would also like to move that we accept the stone replacement. It's going to be in the front where it's highly visible, and if we don't, we're going to have some pretty wide
I agree.
joints in there. So.
I would second that.
Any more discussion, council, on the bid? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You think he's got any black ones? Get the patina to match.
I saw some out at the landfill the other day.
Yeah.
No blacking up soon enough.
Yeah.
What was his time frame on doing it?
This spring.
Okay.
That would be good.
Then,
I'll
my
recommend it.
question, since we accepted the proposal, do I need to go ahead and encumber the funds?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Because,
Okay. I
bid
feel
is
like
essentially-
for that amount, and if something goes
the
over,
contract, it's still considered an encumbrance.
Moving on, nuisances. Nothing.
I haven't got anything yet.
I thought it seems like we do that, we're getting a lot of expense put into number 15, 29, number 36. You know, because we have the tear down of that.
we got paid.
No, we did get paid for that?
Whoa. Yeah, you need to be looking more like it. 5/23.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
But we can't all be compared to the record holder. That's,
I can tell you, you guys allowed us to get the training and they came on site and we're now on board with the cashiering system and the accounts receivable. Well, now it's in our system and now when we print out, and Jess has recently saw this, we had $37,000 in mowing, electrical work, water work, nuisance properties, health and abatements that are billed out right now.
that's on all.
That's beyond
Yeah,
this list.
all-
I mean,
okay.
these are severe cases, but that's, you know, if the guys go and change the ducting light or they upgrade somebody's electrical or a water service repair. Yeah, those are numbers that were never visible anymore, and I told Deirdre, let's just start at the beginning of the year and let the council see what's out there. I don't think anybody has any idea how much time you guys spend dealing with nuisance and nuisance properties and what it's really costing us.
So is the upgrade, do you guys like it? Getting along with it well?
Yeah. it's a little more workaround, but I like that it's
It
there.
tracks things better.
We have reports now, not just our little spreadsheet showing it. The auditors are going to love it. So, but yeah, and we were able to show just where we're at. You know, we could tell him off of an Excel spreadsheet, but now we can lay it in front of him, and we know how much is in water, how much is in light, and how much is in the other funds is where they consider it. But it breaks it down by sewer, street.
Then will it, like when somebody gets delinquent, will that show up on there too?
Oh, it does a 0 to 30 days, 30 to 60, 60 to 90. But right now we don't have it set up to charge penalties because we don't have any instruction in our code that we can charge penalties on that. That's just kind of not addressed. So it might be something the city wants to consider because at this time, you know, we do something for $800 and most we can do is certify them on their property, and people may give us, we have one that's been paying, they still owe us $95, and they've been paying on it for 2+ years. You know, $2.39 here, they'll overpay their $87 bill and give us $90. We got $12.02 today towards it. It brought them under 100. I was pretty excited. But if you started charging some penalties, maybe
They would pay a little sooner.
But I also understand, you know, allowing them some time. But
well, that's within the control of the city.
Right, and right now, if somebody doesn't even attempt to make a payment after 3 notices, I put it on their property taxes.
Well, that's where it belongs. In some of these, that will pay off because
almost every one of these are on property taxes, but they have to pay their property taxes.
They do, and they ultimately will. Yeah.
Or it'll go to a sheriff's sale.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
City Attorney.
Well, I don't have anything. I did follow through on what we talked about last time, although it's not on the agenda, so I can't go too far into it. But we've made a presentation and should have something to report at the next meeting with some materials, some additional materials that we had to consider. So that's as far as I'll go because it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
So what is this Kenny Morgan thing?
Showed up on Friday. Clay is going to submit it to the state for payment under the grant because it's part of work in progress, he said.
Okay.
And he said they were on site that day. That's when the caps were being done.
So they got those done.
Yeah. He didn't really seem concerned at all with that bill.
Well, we're more pleased with it than not
Yeah,
pleased with it.
he was.
Because of what it could be and what we
Yeah,
expected.
that's like an open book right there.
This will help.
They charged half the daily rate that they said
They
they
said
could
they
in
were
the
gonna-
crossing
yeah.
agreement.
Clay was very pleased. And he told me he would submit it on his end for me not to worry about it. So I just put it in there so you guys could see it.
Anything else, Dave?
No, that's all.
City Clerk set year-end meeting, 12/28/18, 7:30 a.m.
So I worked with everybody. That's our last working day of the month.
Do we need a motion for that? No. City Superintendent report,
I have nothing more to do.
governing body.
I have several items. I was on the phone today with Robert, the guy that came up on Friday and looked at the pool. He is putting a proposal together and will be here to present it and answer questions at the January meeting. We talked about some options.
Just for tile?
No, the whole pool.
The whole pool. Oh, you
Well,
mean pool.
like
The pool.
sandblasting, painting.
So I need it on the agenda.
Yes. he was asking me what we wanted to do, and he's like, we can replace the tile. I said, okay. He's like, $200,000. I was like, nope, we don't need tile around the pool. We just need it to hold water. So he was going to do another option that would be cheaper and kind of give us that, and then he would answer questions. I had a complaint about the Indy Park Road. They said it's very washboardy and it needs help. I don't know if anybody's been down that or if you've seen it. Jess, does it need?
All roads.
Yeah.
All roads. All gravel roads are in desperate need of help. That's just the weather. Freezing and thawing. We're working on it.
Is there any way, I don't know what it would cost if we put, like from the highway to BC, or to, not BC Diesel, but to DJ Environmental is paved? What would be the possibility of paving it clear through so if anybody else builds in there, they would have a paved road?
The council was against that because they said that would be a hot rod when that was put in.
Well, they tried that on.
Yeah, when they built that in there, that's the reason why that street was never paved.
I tried that on the Missile Road, but that got zapped.
And that would be, you're gonna have a lot of heavy trucks and whatnot going down that. It's
No.
gonna be really hard on that if you would do that.
It would be like the corner from my co-op that we're at every year.
Or the stop sign in front
But
of
that got scrapped right off the bat when they built that out there.
Okay. I didn't know if, I just said I would bring it up and go from there. And then on behalf of the Pride Committee, we would like to request that the city doesn't move the Pride planners. If there's a problem with them or they need moved, like to do the tuck pointing work, that's fine, but when they're moved, we don't know if somebody stole them or what happened to them, so we would just like to request that they be left alone, and Pride members can move them if they
That hot set out here that march with the Christmas tree there. Is
Where
that
was
what's
it
going to
Sunday?
happen then?
Where was it Sunday?
Sunday got brought in because they had all the dead stuff in it since October. The ones up on Main Street got fixed 2 weeks ago and nobody did anything about this, and so it got slid inside. Last March it got slid inside because it had a Christmas tree in it that was dead and nobody was taking care of it. And I'm starting to get made fun of it because of it, so I pulled it inside. It sat there till May before anybody knew it was gone, and then they fixed it. If it's going to be out there, I would appreciate it the Pride would take care of it.
We will take care of it,
Okay,
and
then we got agreement.
we did the planners on Main Street. We ran out of material. We had to get more material. Kelly's the one that did the tree. She was gone to a conference last week, said, I got her the materials, and she said, I'll do it this weekend. She went to put the tree in, and there's no planner. So,
We'll work together on this, but you see what we're after also.
this
You
tree
don't
won't
want
die.
to be
It's
embarrassed
fake.
walking into the city hall.
It's fake. So
Thank you.
it's not going to do anything.
For sure.
Well, unless it starts
Well,
growing.
but we don't even want a fake one there till March.
Correct. Thank you.
Mrs. Larson.
No,
No. Jack?
I'll have to beg apology here. I can't remember if I told you the story about the woman that called the psychiatrist's office to make an appointment for her husband. Did I tell you? Okay, good. So she calls and the doctor says, okay, what seems to be his problem? And she says, well, he thinks he's a refrigerator. And he said, these little minor delusions, unless it's bothering his daily life, I really wouldn't do anything about it. She says, well, it's not bothering his life, but it's certainly bothering mine. And he says, oh, how's that? And she says, well, he sleeps with his mouth open and that little light keeps me up all night.
I think he told that.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, in case I did, I'll tell you this. Before I went into pharmacy school and I was in college, I was considered